Are there advantages to aging? Yes, I am Debbi-Jo Horton, and welcome to Advantages to Aging. Join my guests and I as we discuss aging and what makes for a healthy lifestyle, which results in a quality life. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah.
Welcome, listeners, to a new episode of Advantages to Aging. I have with me today aging in place specialist, Matt McGuire, with Home Mobility Pros. And we are going to talk about all those things I know you're thinking about, like, do I really need to move? Should I be moving mom or dad? All those questions that we start thinking about as we get older. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. I'm really excited about this because I know that we've faced this a couple of times personally. And it's always good to have those extra perspectives and also to think about, like what you might be thinking about even at the age you are right now about if you really love your home, what can you be doing so that you can age in place? So, can you kind of enlighten us a little bit about where the aging in place industry is kind of going?
Yeah. Well, first, all stems from people's goals, right? So, what they want to be able to accomplish, which may, as you said earlier, include staying in their homes. So, aging in place has really become something where you're aging with a lot of confidence that there's products out there that can not make your home look like you live in a hospital. And that's the number one concern. So, there's a lot of stylistic changes happening for everything from grab bars to showers to walk-in tubs that really are set to enhance the aesthetically pleasing aspect of what you're trying to accomplish.
Interesting. You're right. There's been so many different improvements in even just the aesthetics of things. Like before, people would go like, "Oh, I'm never putting grab bars in. Those look terrible. Looks like it's a public bathroom."
Yeah.
Speaking of bathrooms, is that the place where most falls happen, or is there other places in our home we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, bathrooms is usually the number one place, and that comes with a lot of issues for folks as they age because of the majority of homes. A lot of people want to hold on to that tub, and as you're trying to get in and out of that tub, it can prove problematic. Even being inside the tub, there's really only give and take about 18 inches of floor space there, so there's not a ton of room going on in there. Adding grab bars, things like that, or even just removing the tub and converting to a shower are all things to consider. Even though some folks get hung up on the fact that they need to have a tub for children or someone down the line who's going to buy their home, you really need to focus on your own specific goals and your own specific needs. And that most likely involves removing that tub because when you have to get over something that's roughly over 15 inches high, that might as well be a mountain.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I know a lot of times people, like you said, really want to hang on to that tub. But like, I think even for myself, I'm like, well, how many times do I actually take a bath?
We take out more bathtubs, especially the jetted jacuzzis that people have. And those are, if you don't use them, they can develop mold, they can develop all kinds of other problems. Most of the time, the jets don't work, things like that. And we remove those all the time. Tubs in general just aren't utilized as much as possible. And even folks like myself who has young children, it's not necessary to have a tub to bathe your children. And really, sometimes is not great for your skin unless you do have a water filtration system. With all the junk that's in the water these days, it dries out your skin and gives you more problems than you really want.
Excellent points. So bathrooms are number one. What other areas of your home should people be kind of thinking about and paying attention to?
Yeah, besides the bathrooms, and just one other thing to touch on is just around the toilet, is definitely is something that there are a lot of options to have stabilizing grab bars, or even there's some amazing pole systems and things like that that can help you get on and off safely, and even different heights of toilets. And these types of things, for handy folks, those are really DIY type things, as well as another aspect, as you asked, around the home is really going in and out of the home. So little things that people can do DIY is just ensure you have enough lighting. Very simple thing that everybody forgets about is lighting those pathways, making sure that they're free of debris, of boxes and all kinds of other things that I always see in people's homes that are just in the way. Even having a little grab bar near the stairs if you're going in and out of the home, something to grab onto and hold on to, is essential for everybody's safety.
Excellent. Yeah, stairs can definitely be an issue, and a lot of times people put things on the stairs that are meant to be brought up or brought down, and how many times do we walk by them and not pick them up? But
Yeah, and
and if
stairs are
you're
not forgiving if you fall. So I mean, on the interior for stairs, obviously there's stair lifts, things like that that are a little more invasive into the home, and of course, those are extremely helpful for those who need them. And of course, those are on more of the economical front than say an elevator or anything like that. But stairs, obviously, anywhere inside or out. But for the most part, especially in New England where we live, exterior going in and out, does present all kinds of elements due to the weather and things like that. So definitely things that you want to pay attention to.
mm, interesting. So, how should folks plan for, like the different projects, whether it's, covering an outside stairwell or taking care of, pulling out that tub and putting in a walk-in or any of those other things? How should they prepare for that?
Yeah, I think it depends on if they're working with somebody already, depending on everybody's situation's different. And so if you're already working with an occupational therapist, otherwise known as an OT, that's they come into play there. An aging in place specialist like myself can simply have these conversations with you over the phone. And also, it's a very simple thing to just to think about as you navigate through your day. I think we do it subconsciously, but if you take a minute to step back and really think about these problem areas in your home and then devise a plan. I mean, I think a lot of folks get tripped up at the costs of some of these things these days. If they haven't, especially if they haven't done any kind of, if it's construction related, if they haven't done anything in a long time, prices do not go down, they just go up. So anything that was even a few years back or even pre pandemic, those prices have increased in some cases dramatically. So planning ahead and also maybe even working with local entities like your senior center, those folks have some amazing resources where you can get ahead of the game and learn if there are any types of funding available to help you age in place or even reimburse you for those aging in place items that you might take on.
Yeah, when you and I spoke before, I was kind of surprised about how much money and how much help is out there. Just a little aside from the aging realm, but oftentimes people find themselves needing not aging in place so much as a sudden disability. And I never made the connection. And so I wonder how many of our listeners may or may not have made the connection of the same things that you would do for someone aging in place are potential solutions or helpful for someone who suddenly is disabled because of an accident or an illness or so is it pretty much the same type of steps that you would take or is there something more that you need to think about if it's a disability versus I never want to say that aging is a disability because it's not.
Yeah, well, traumatic instances, they do happen, and unfortunately, they can happen to anybody at any time. It
Mm,
doesn't matter how old you are, and that's something that is an unfortunate reality, right? That we all deal with. But those that plan ahead, I tell you, it is a rare thing. I'm working with somebody right now who is planning ahead, that's something that is a breath of fresh air to someone in my position. Is it's usually the calls that we get are, we need this now, a fall already happened, and nobody's being preventative. So being preventative again comes down to, sometimes it's just getting past the, whether it's ego or whatever it may be, that you don't want to have these things that can be helpful to you in your home. And again, like we talked about earlier, aesthetically, they're not all like looking in a hospital type, items. There are some amazing things you can do. It's just, you do have to do a little bit of research and get ahead of it. But if there is a traumatic situation, you still have to understand that, there is still a period of time that you're going to have to go through and make adjustments, and have to overcome the situation until help can arrive to properly put in something that is going to help you not only for the short term, but you need to think about what products are going to help you for the long term as well. So you don't want to just settle for something that you can get super quick and cheap. It's something that you really want to think about and make sure that it's, you're not doing it twice.
Right. And listeners, in the show notes, you'll find a link to schedule a consultation with Matt, which I would highly recommend, because I think that probably one of the biggest drawbacks or things that make us hesitate about being proactive about this is the fear of how much it's going to cost and how much it might put us out. And just a simple consultation with someone who knows what the options are, can be really a real peace of mind.
Hey, DJ here. Are you like what I used to be like, with multiple different bottles of supplements and minerals and nutrients and trying to remember when you're supposed to take what when? Gone are those days. Neora's simplified system packs active ingredients in the smallest amounts of products that you have to take, making keeping your wellness and weight management simple.
Now, there are definitely things that you should not be doing yourself, like maybe putting in a lift on the stairs or any other major project, unless you happen to be in the industry. So I would highly recommend that you reach out to Matt and have that consultation. But Matt, are there some simple things that folks can probably do now around the house to start making themselves a little safer? I mean, we do these things like when a baby comes into the home, being more proactive, because you know they don't know what they're sticking their fingers into. But sometimes as we get older, or we have those illnesses or disabilities that suddenly come about, not to say that we are like children who don't know what we're doing, but oftentimes we don't have that mobility that allows us to quickly move out of harm's way. So, what are maybe some things that people should either do themselves right now to make their home a safer place, or at least be kind of like putting into the budget, or putting into the, when it gets warmer, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, I think it comes down to a few different simple things. One is decluttering, getting things out of your way. Especially if you don't have children, where toys are everywhere, like myself. It's tough to do at this age, the ages that I have. But decluttering, getting things out of the way, lighting, make sure you have plenty of lighting in your home, outside your home, as we discussed earlier. That is an important factor. And then just really understanding your habits. What do you happen to grab onto? Is it stable? As you mentioned with children, a lot of times you put an anchor system so they don't pull something down. Well, same thing here. If you're, constantly, I lean on this or I touch that or whatever, or, I've fallen into this. Well, make sure that these things are not going to collapse on top of you. And especially if you are living alone, you do need to make sure that you have safety precautions in places if something does happen to you, like a life alert or those types of products. Those are the types of things that can absolutely save you in your life. If and those are all simple things that you can do on your own, just to make sure, just for peace of mind, if something were to ever happen, you have that protection.
Those are all great points. I never even thought about the things that you lean on or grab onto when you maybe lose your balance or suddenly realize that you're not picking your foot up as high as you think that you are, and you're hitting things as you're stepping over them instead of going around them. These were all great tips. I know there's so many more things that we could talk about in terms of what resources might be out there, where there are so many different resources in so many different states and countries. I think that your suggestion of starting with your senior center is a great one. So even if you are not a senior, you can still call them for their resources. They're always happy to give. The one last thing I think I'll ask before we sign off is, what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about downsizing and looking at purchasing a home that's suited for aging in place? I mean, there's that,
Yeah.
do I age in place in the home that I have now, or do I make it smaller and age in place at this new place? What advice might you give?
Yeah,
Yes.
so that all starts on the outside as well. There's a lot of communities that are advertised as over 55 and primed for that aging in place process, and that's what they market themselves to be. And you really need to look at what you're buying exactly. So, for instance, my father bought in an over 55 community, and the rise to the threshold to get into the home was probably over 5 feet. So that means if you have to install a ramp or anything like that, my dad's in his 70s, or you're really limited to a vertical platform lift, which because a ramp would be, I mean, you'd zigzag for days. The general rule of thumb for a ramp is for every inch of rise, which 5 feet is 60 inches, is a foot of run of ramp. So there's no way you're going to put 60 inches of ramp there or anything. So you're really, or even anything close if you cheated it, it's really, there's not a lot of options other than a vertical platform lift, which is a huge device that is can be a real lifesaver. But it really starts from that outside. Is all right. How high is that? Are those? How many steps are we talking about just to get in? That's the first thing. The second thing would be to go in and really look at the doorways. Like, how wide are those doorways? If you have a walker or anything like that, are you going to chew up those doorways? A lot of homes in New England, we have 28 old homes, 28-inch doorways, 24-inch doorways in some. And then you get to some of the newer homes that might have 30, 32. 32 is an ADA doorway. 36 is ideal for anybody, and especially in a wheelchair or anything that you're never going to, I shouldn't say never, but you're not as likely to chew those doors up. The other thing would be just, again, the bathroom. What type of shower system is it? Is there a curb? How high is that curb? And just knowing yourself, is that 6-inch curb that it might have? Again, it might as well be a mountain if you have issues with your legs. So these are the types of things you need to look at and understand if there's options if you're buying something new, or understand the costs if you wanted to change it out.
Great. I know that I'm sure that I'll be making a list. No, I'm not. Who am I talking? I would just call Matt.
Make a list for you.
Thankfully, we're both in the same state, so I could totally do that. But this, I hope you have found very helpful, listeners. I have heard Matt talk several different times about all the different things, and I am always amazed at some point during that discussion, I go, oh my, I never thought about that. There are so many things that you could be thinking about to prepare yourself so that you are being proactive instead of reactive, which is the advantage to thinking about those things prior to needing them. Thanks so much, Matt, for joining us today. Listeners, I hope that you have taken away lots of notes, measuring things, and making your plan. Don't forget, you'll be able to contact Matt and get more information from him should you need it.
Do you think one of the biggest advantages to aging is all the knowledge we gain along the way? Me too. What did you learn today? Share with me in my Facebook group with the same name as this podcast, Advantages to Aging. Now hit subscribe so you don't miss all the tips to come in future episodes.